Hello, and welcome to episode 1 of our brand new podcast. It is so surreal to say that. If you don't know me, my name is Marissa Remy, and I've been posting on the interwebs for 15 plus years. I grew up at a time that social media was developing, and so I had some of the first MySpace accounts and Facebook accounts and all of those things. I remember having to lie about your age in order to get a social media account, and it has been a beautiful journey since then. A few years ago, my podcast was ranked top 10 in the world, and I was actually featured on the news for my holistic healing methods, for trauma healing, and it truly was such a dream come true. All of my manifestations came true, and it was the most amazing experience of my life. And it also highlighted to me that I was having a major identity issue. There was just a lot of deeper work and things that I needed to do. So for the past few years, I have been doing a lot of healing. I've been doing a lot of plant medicine journeys with shamans. I have been going on retreats. I've been facilitating retreats. I've been doing all these different spiritual practices to better understand my soul vision and my purpose in this lifetime. And I'm going to be sharing a lot of those practices with you because I've done really out there and weird things that are not really talked about in our mainstream media at all. So it can be hard to even know that these practices exist. So I'm really excited that we're spending this time here together, and I hope that you subscribe, that you make sure to have notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of our future episodes. In this podcast, we'll be talking about alternative healing methods, natural healing, holistic healing, ancient healing. I'll be able to share rituals with you as well as my research on ancient healing practices. And something that I'm so excited to have an outlet to share with you is my astral travel journeys and research. I have been able to learn so much by learning how to astral travel. It has been one of the greatest gifts that I've given myself and my soul. Another way of talking about it is by saying self-hypnosis. I am a licensed hypnotherapist, so I've been sharing clinical hypnotherapy work for a really long time. And while I've been doing that with others, while I do in my own personal practice is self-hypnosis. So I've been able to teach others how to do that, and I've also been able to experience that for myself and learn. It's so incredible, and it's literally completely changed my life. So I'm really excited to share with you the ways that it's changed my life, the ways that you can use these practices, and just all of the alternative stories that you tend to not really see out here in the world. People don't really talk about interdimensional beings and all of the topics related to the conscious exploration that we get to experience as souls in this realm. Something that people used to ask me about a lot in the past is how can you tell the difference between your intuition versus an impulse? And this has been something that I've been researching and exploring within myself. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. No human being has the perfect answer for how to navigate these things or the perfect formula for how to navigate these things, because all humans are limited in our biology. I'm also a neuroscientist, so I understand the way that the brain works, and the brain is not always our friend. The brain is very limited. We live in this world that has evolved so much faster than our biology has evolved. So we can feel very out of sorts when we are trying to navigate our intuition versus our impulses and things of that nature. We've been really good at doing this throughout history when it comes to navigating huge expeditions. Like native tribes throughout the whole entire world, we're able to cross huge oceans, huge amounts of land, just by knowing if they are tuned into their intuition or tuned into an impulsive thought or an impulsive feeling. Having that knowledge and that knowing determines life or death. That determines whether you are going to get to the other side of the ocean, or if you're just going to be going in circles on your canoe endlessly. It determines whether you are actually in danger, or if you are just experiencing a heightened level of anxiety and a perceived danger that isn't actually real, and therefore running out of energy and storage, because anxiety costs us so much energy. So our ancestors were able to understand very easily the difference between their intuition and their impulses. This is how our society has progressed. But with the rise of all of this technology on this planet, with the rise of so many other things in our society, it's gotten so much harder for people to be able to decipher their intuition versus their impulses. And the decisions that we're trying to use our intuition or impulse to guide us through becomes so much smaller and more nuanced. Suddenly, you're not sitting in the middle of the forest and trying to feel into whether or not you are being watched by a bear, right? Like, this is an extreme life or death situation. Having the intuition that you are being watched in that moment could literally save your life. But when you're constantly having this intuition of constantly feeling like you're being watched, or maybe you're going to comment on someone's post, or quickly respond to a text or respond to an email, and you don't even know if you're tapped into your intuition in that moment or your impulse in that moment. So the more that our world has evolved and the more complexities that we have and face every single day, the harder it is to really be tapped in to our own inner nature and to know for ourselves what is our intuition versus what is an impulse. Another thing that we experience in this world is a lot more impulses than our ancestors experienced because of those electromagnetic frequencies that our technology is run on. So all of us use Wi-Fi. I'm using Wi-Fi right now to record this episode, and I'm so grateful for Wi-Fi. And every single thing in our planet has both a light side and a dark side. And it's so important to be able to hold the nuance of the light and the dark, to be able to hold the duality. So yes, Wi-Fi is an amazing technology that supports us so deeply. And also, it runs on electromagnetic frequencies. Your brain also runs on electromagnetic frequencies. So when you, as an electrical organism, are in this environment that you're in all these invisible electromagnetic frequencies, these currents that are running through your brain, running through your body, it actually changes your thoughts. It changes what thoughts are most accessible to you and most available to you. And this is why I'm so passionate about connecting with nature and connecting with crystals and holistic healing practices, because these things are an embodiment of nature. Crystals are deep in the earth. So if we're looking at the spectrum of light and dark, so to speak, if Wi-Fi has all of these energies, these dark frequencies that can cause us to have a lot more impulses and impulsive thoughts in our mind, then when we're around crystals or energies that can hold a really high vibration of nature, like being around a waterfall where you hear the nature, you feel the nature, you can feel the energy of the water blowing in front of you. It is so powerful. You can feel that energy in your body. It is so healthy for us to experience those natural experiences just as much as we experience our impulses and all of this other stuff that we navigate. I live in California, and I actually had to move due to the electromagnetic frequencies that I was experiencing where I lived in the past. I had no idea. I was not monitoring the amount of 5G towers that were being put up. And if I had been monitoring that, I'm 100% sure that I could have been able to track data and see a correlation between my panic attacks, between my hyper anxious episodes, or feeling just really, really ill. I am someone who has experienced a lot of chronic health symptoms and a lot of illness symptoms, because when you have chronic anxiety and when you're being run by your impulses, your body is constantly in this state of fight or flight, which is chronic stress. And when you experience chronic stress for whatever reason, whether it be financial stress, whether it be stress in your relationship, stress because you're not in a relationship, stress about going to bed every single night or feeling enough energy throughout the day, all of these things can contribute to our chronic stress, and these things really wear us down. So I stopped my podcast. I took a huge break from social media when I could experience all of these energies. And I couldn't really articulate what was happening. So it's not that I didn't want to share it with you. Trust me, I definitely did. And I'm chomping at the bit to get back to sharing this stuff as openly and honestly as possible. And that's exactly why I'm here with you today. And I'm so excited for that. But it's been a journey of not only understanding myself and understanding how to navigate my own intuition versus impulses, but also navigating these frequencies and how to talk about these frequencies, because when people talk about a lot of these things openly online, you get in trouble. And this is very widely known. Our society has a certain agenda, has a certain, we live in this matrix, right? There's a purpose here. And for so many of us that can see the matrix so clearly, that can feel it so clearly, that can feel that we are run by our impulses, and we're asking these questions like, what's going on? Why am I just not feeling good? Because this is not the way that I should be feeling. And every time I go to the doctor, doctors just tell me, oh, there's just something wrong with you, or there's nothing wrong with you. Like, there's just always something to be said. What is actually going on here? And how can I actually feel the way that deep down in my soul, I know I deserve to feel? So asking all of these questions took me on this beautiful journey of completely moving to a completely new area, completely adopting a new lifestyle, new practices, new mindset. And it's been really valuable, because even though all of these things are new, what they allow me to do is to feel tapped into my intuition at all times, or more than I ever have in my entire life, which is so amazing. Being connected to your intuition is like being connected to all of your ancestors, the ancestors that made it across the Atlantic, the ancestors that were like learned how to domesticate animals, like doing the coolest things in the history of our world. It connects you to the power of every single person that has walked before you. And you feel this level of confidence that people are not even talking about when they're talking about like how to be more confident in those cute little videos that we see on social media and online. When you feel the roar of your soul's purpose in every step, when you can hear God's voice guiding you in every single thing that you do, it is so beautiful. Being connected to your intuition is not something that can be measured. It's not something that like you can pass or fail at, or like I'm like giving you a grade on how to do it. And I think that so often in our society, when we're doing our meditation practices and when we're trying so hard to be connected to our intuition, we want that grade. We want to know, am I doing this right? Is this going to pay off for me, or whatever it is? And it can be really stressful. That can add a whole other layer of stress, right? not even knowing if your practices are working for you, or if you're just sitting down to meditate every day and just crossing off of a box and wasting your own time, which is the worst feeling ever. And so I want you to know, if you are someone who's dealing with maybe just that feeling of like not feeling at home on this planet, not feeling at home in your body, not feeling as confident as you know that you were made to feel, and not knowing why. I never was a religious person. I never thought that I was going to be someone that would talk about my relationship with God on the internet, but I have to tell you that this is the most beautiful journey, and I could not have created this happiness or been able to connect with my intuition. Connecting with your intuition is connecting with God. And when you're always connected to your intuition, it means that you are always connected to God. And if you're not religious and you want to think about it like nature or the universe, that's okay too. I wasn't religious throughout this whole entire process. I now feel like my relationship with God is absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to talk more about it. But for so much of this journey, only New Age spirituality resonated with me because I had to see or hold something tangible. I had to go and do a parasite cleanse. I had to go and worship this thing in this realm in order to clear my physical body so that I could feel my intuition, so that I could feel connected to God. So it's complicated. This is a complicated process, and we're all just out here on this planet that is constantly evolving. No 2 days are the same, and we are living this life that is so different than all of our ancestors, even just the generation before us. They didn't have social media. Like, imagine asking your parents for dating advice. They never had to post stuff on their story in order to get a certain person's attention or whatever it is. So all of this stuff is so complex. We're in these brains, we're in this highly intelligent physiology that none of us were given user manuals for. We've just been told that our emotions are bad and not to cry. And so we've been taught to suppress our true self, to suppress God coming through us, our nature coming through us, the universe coming through us, however you want to think about it or talk about it. We've been taught to suppress our own nature. And then all of us are confused, and we're lonely in that confusion. So of course we trauma bond. Of course we're still looking for relationships, and then realizing like, oh, whoa, I have anxious attachment. I have all of this stuff that I didn't even realize that I had. What's wrong with me? And that question, what is wrong with me, is a question that I've asked myself so much in my life. Probably the most common question that I've asked myself, because I just felt like, I honestly felt like God made a mistake in making me, because I always felt like there was something wrong with me, that I didn't know how to trust my intuition, that I don't know what's an impulse or an intuition. I don't know these things. So there must be something wrong with me. There must be some sort of mistake. And what I learned throughout this beautiful, beautiful spiritual journey, as I start to choke up and tear up because it is so beautiful, is that none of us are made flawed in any way, but all of us have flaws. And the flaws that we have are part of our perfection. We are human beings. Imagine operating this highly evolved machinery, aka the brain and body, with no user manual, with no guidance, with no one who's done this before that can tell you how to do it. No one's ever experienced your inner world and your inner environment. So we read as many books as possible. I used to read a book a week minimum. I was thirsty. I was hungry for knowledge. I was seeking outside of myself. Does anyone else understand this feeling of what is wrong with me? Can anyone tell me what is wrong with me? Can anyone understand what I'm feeling? and give me an answer and tell me, just give me the step by step of how to feel better. Just give me the step by step of how to be confident, of how to heal. And I learned through this whole entire process that there's tons of steps and steps. There's so many shamans. There's so many plant medicine. There's so much help out there. There's so many books, and none of it is demonic, because all of it is a little slice of godliness. Every book that you pick up is an interpretation of someone's intuitive messages, someone's godliness that they interpreted into this book. So you can find God, you can find nature, you can find the universe in everything. And you can also find our own will, separation from God, what people call evil, what people call trauma, what people call all of the dark stuff. You can also find that in everything. This journey has been such a beautiful journey of learning that we are all whole all the time, but we don't always know that. We don't always remember that when we're feeling frustrated and angry and wronged and taken advantage of, that those feelings are divine. That is nature. That is godliness. And we need to honor those feelings and honor that. And we've been so used to honoring the things that we've been told to do, the ways we've been told to dress. We've been so used to looking outside of ourselves, reading magazines. I used to read magazines all through my childhood to see what was trendy, what's normal, what can I do in this world? What are the rules of this world? And looking outside myself to try to determine what they are. And I think that so many people can resonate with this, because this is what it is to be a soul, a highly multidimensional soul that is capable of flying and swimming and space travel and so many things, trapped in this 3-dimensional body that is so intelligent but also limited from the soul perspective. Now, these things are hard to talk about. I used to go to church every single week because I was like, will they talk about astral travel? Will they talk about what it's like to be a soul limited by this 3D experience? What it's like to hear the voice of God, to hear your own nature, but feel so limited as well? And I realized that there aren't places out there that talk about this. I realize that there's a huge gap in our society, and a lot of people like me who have been labeled as depressed or anxious because we've been asking ourselves, did God make a mistake with me? What is wrong with me? And a lot of people suppress that question with alcohol, with drugs, or they're sober. They suppress it by going to church. They suppress it by dating. They suppress it by making dinner every single night. You can suppress your stuff with healthy habits too. I think that so many people feel this way and don't have the words for it because there aren't really words for it. And the answers that we're all looking for, when we tell them to ourselves, it doesn't even matter. Because these questions that we have about feeling like there's something wrong with us, those questions are in every single cell in your body. Think about how many cells are in your body. 32.7 trillion cells. Muscle cells, skin cells, hair cells. These questions of, did God make a mistake with me? Maybe you don't even bring yourself to asking yourself that question because it's too hard to ask. I know that I didn't. I know that I spent so much of my life just focusing on my appearance, on my abs, making sure that I had abs 365 days a year, 6-pack, 8-pack, perfectly toned, tanned skin. I couldn't even ask myself that question and look at the fact that deep down in my subconscious, that's what was ruling me. That's why I wanted all of the stuff that I wanted. It was to try to answer this question of what is wrong with me? Did God make a mistake with me? So I wanted to get really, really strong. I wanted to get really famous. I wanted to get top 10 in the world. I wanted all of these external things. And once I got all of those things, I realized that the only thing left to do is to be honest with myself and look at that question. That deep, deep down, that insecurity is so much deeper than feeling bloated, than not having the right winged eyeliner. Like, the things that I was feeling insecure about had nothing to do with the root of my insecurity. And the root of my insecurity was that I felt like God made a mistake with me, because I felt so limited in this world. And people talk in like the self-development space about how you need to unlimit yourself, stop self-sabotaging, blah, blah, blah. I've never heard anything more toxic in my entire life as a professional, licensed trauma healer. The concept of self-sabotage has been the most toxic concept in the self-development and personal development space, because there's no way to know if we're sabotaging ourselves or not. And that idea lends itself to the fact that we are ruled by something that wants to hurt us. That if I'm not more aware or whatever it is, like, it's just a really convoluted thing that has been taught in a completely wrong way. Self-sabotage definitely exists. I self-sabotage. We all self-sabotage. But healing from self-sabotage comes down to getting out of your own way. And so then who's in the way? Who rules you? How can you make sure that your intuition, that you are being ruled by something that has your highest good in mind? That you are constantly surrounding yourself with frequencies that lend themselves to you thinking confident thoughts about yourself, to you wanting a closer relationship with yourself. And I didn't realize that what I was doing throughout this whole entire journey of trying to do self-development work and trying to be more confident and trying to be more attractive and achieve all of my goals and all of this stuff, I had no idea that I was living a godly lifestyle because I did not have a relationship with God. But when I looked at my lifestyle, it actually was a very, very godly lifestyle. Exercising every single day, being so consistent in my practices. Consistency and discipline is what allows your intuition to come through. And it is so sacred and so divine. And when we're consistent and disciplined, we don't make space for self-sabotage. We don't make space for impulses. When you fill yourself with prayer, with nature, with high vibrational frequencies, there's no space to self-sabotage. So self-sabotage really is only a concern of living this like very, very worldly lifestyle. And so much of my journey, I did not realize that I was calling myself a spiritual woman. Like, I couldn't find the right words for myself. I tried to put myself in the category of being vegan. I tried to put myself in the category of going to church. I tried all of these different categories because I couldn't see other people in this world that were like me. And because I knew about astrology, or because I knew about neuroscience or astral travel, like I could fit into these different categories and kind of be like a little bit of a chameleon. And that's not wrong, and that's not bad. But my life changed when I heard someone talking in the way that I was thinking. So that's why I have worked up the courage to be able to sit down and record this episode with you, which is hard to talk about because not many people are willing to talk about their relationship with God or nature or health or their insecurities or their traumas, or like these conversations are not very common. So even just by being willing to talk about the difficult stuff that goes on in your life or whatever it is, that already makes you really weird, right? And it's taken me a lot of inner work and inner reflection and closing down my old podcast that I didn't realize I only started it for worldly purposes. Yes, my intuition led me to start that podcast, and I'm so grateful for all of the conversations that we got to have there, and it's been so amazing. But it was a really hard conversation to have with myself once it reached top 10 in the world, and so many of my prayers were answered. Like, it was a really hard conversation to realize that I started this for the wrong reasons. I started this just because I wanted to, like, be famous or something. Like, I didn't really know my why. And I had to go back to the drawing board and go back to my conversations with God to really understand, why do I talk about holistic healing online? Why do I share all of these topics that continuously get me censored and banned from every single social media platform? And I was hearing all of these messages as I was just channeling and things like that, and just feeling like, am I just like a controversial person? Like, was I just like put here to be weird and controversial and to not fit in and all of this stuff? And it took me a lot more conversations with God to realize that that is not the case. And that a lot of the struggles and the anxieties and things that I've been experiencing in my life have been the struggles of being like a highly evolved multidimensional soul that's trapped in this 3D body, in this 3D realm. And the words that we have for that in this realm are depression, anxiety, neurodivergence, ADHD, autism, PTSD, right? You wouldn't even have PTSD if you weren't sensitive enough to be traumatized by it. So just the stuff that they diagnose us with, if you really allow yourself to meditate on it and really allow yourself to think about it with your free mind, no medication, no fluoride, no chemicals, your free thinking mind, just thinking about the concepts of PTSD or attention deficit disorder, right? Like, these words reveal the paradox in themselves. PTSD is something that has plagued me for so much of my life, and I did not know why, and it led me to so much of this work, right? Like, I wish that I could say that I just was curious about my intuition one day or whatever it was, but no, when you've been really badly traumatized, you don't ever want to be traumatized like that again. And so you want to know what was faulty in me that led to that. Who's at fault? What do I need to do? How do I need to change? How do I need to grow? And so many of us are so afraid of saying that big word, the T word, trauma. It's a big, scary word, but it's not a big, scary word at all. It really is not. Because we all experience trauma, depending on our level of sensitivity, in any moment. You can be traumatized by an apple rolling off the shelf because you didn't think that that was going to happen. And it can remind the nervous system, the cells, our deep intelligence that we have within our body. It reminds the body that we live in this environment that is incredibly unpredictable, that you don't control. So yes, an apple rolling off a shelf can literally be trauma for you. People don't need to experience torture, kidnapping, like the deepest levels of trauma in order to honor themselves, in order to stop abandoning their emotions. And all of this is hard work. And this took me years and years. And this took me so many books, 20 years of meditation, 20 years of therapy. And it's been really, really hard to try to fit 20 years of meditation work into a single Instagram post. So I feel like my social media posts have just been falling short, and they just haven't been aligning with me and haven't been resonating with me recently. Because how can you talk about these deep, deep, incredible, life-changing topics in a caption that's limited to 500 words or less? I'm really grateful for social media. I'm so grateful that we have this like free way of expressing our deepest desires and the things on our heart, and being able to practice representing ourselves in this world, which is such a beautiful spiritual experience. I feel like one of the reasons I've been able to spiritually evolve in the ways that I have, and been able to be a healer and have such incredible work that's helped so many people around the world, is because I've posted every single day of basically my whole entire life. And it's caused me to spiritually evolve in ways that my ancestors did not have access to. So if you feel called to be a creator, if you feel called to start a business, to do any of your goals, like, give yourself the permission to do it, because it really deeply spiritually evolves you. And through this spiritual evolution, I've been able to learn all of these incredible practices and gifts that I share with people inside of Soul School that I would love to share with you. So if you want my support in applying all of this knowledge into your own life, I would absolutely love to help you. I go live inside of our membership every single week, and I also share all of my course material on neuroscience, divine feminine healing, natural healing, astral travel, hypnotherapy, all of that stuff. Everything that you could possibly need in this journey is all inside Soul School. And I hold your hand every step of the way, because I had no one to hold my hand, no one to meet with every single week. And when you have that community, and when you have that connection of like-minded people who are all choosing to show up for themselves and overcome their own deep insecurities, maybe they don't know why either. Maybe they don't know what their limitations or their self-sabotages are either. But just choosing to try to figure it out together. When you just choose to be in a container like that, it changes your soul and it changes your life. So in addition to posting every single day of basically my whole entire life, another thing that's really helped me is showing up for myself, going to therapy twice a week, every week for 20 years, going on those retreats, draining my bank account at times in order to pay for my holistic healing practices. I was homeless at one point to pay for some holistic healing practices, and I can't wait to share that story with you and what led me to doing that and making those decisions and knowing that God wanted me to be homeless and that that was the best experience of my life. I can't wait to share that with you in a future episode. It's really, really confusing to be a soul in a body in this planet, trying to figure it all out. trying to understand the stuff that we see, the pain that we feel, the trauma that we've experienced, trying to uphold a job in the middle of all of that. This is a hard journey. It really is. Whatever you are facing, you are one of God's strongest soldiers. And I want you to know that. I'm a professional healer. I'm a professional energy reader. Take my word for it. You can write that down. Marissa Remy, who's been doing this work for so long, says that I am one of God's strongest soldiers. Because you wouldn't have even known about this podcast episode if you weren't. A big part of learning how to tap into your intuition is learning how to be mindfully aware. Being mindfully aware means that the algorithm doesn't bring you things for no reason. You don't see the posts that you see just because. And you don't see them because you need to achieve that either. Maybe it's showing you something that you should be ignoring in your life, right? Only you know the spiritual message behind your signs in your life. But if we're not even looking for what those messages are, and we have no awareness about symbology, no awareness about the ancient symbols and spiritual lessons and ways that our ancestors have navigated all of this stuff, we live on this planet that our governments have tried so hard to wipe out all of this knowledge. Every single one of our ancestors knew how to identify the difference between their intuition and their impulses. And maybe they didn't even experience the impulses that we experience to this degree with this sort of energetic climate that we have and face on this planet every single day. So you are on the frontier of something that no human has ever been on before. The last time that we've experienced a rise in consciousness to this level was in the 70s. And we had the beautiful 70s movement. We also had a huge evolution in medicine and therapy and schools of thought and philosophy, and it's so valuable. And we're going through that again right now, and so many of us are awakening to our own discomfort. So many of us are awakening to our soul gifts, whether we would call it that or not. We're going through a massive awakening period on this planet where people are wondering if they're a starseed or if they're autistic or what that even means. And they're finding themselves in these conversations for the very first time that they've never been in before. Maybe wanting to be more vulnerable, maybe wanting to experience pleasure to the capacity that your body is meant to experience it, which is something that I've spent so much of my career focused on after experiencing my own childhood sexual abuse and just really resonating with clients all over the world who are trying to have healthy, normal relationships after experiencing nothing like that. How do you create something that you have never experienced and that you just see in movies? And is the stuff that we see in movies, is that even the stuff that we should be creating in our own private relationships, in our own private worlds? And these are really deep conversations, and they're complex, and they're triggering. They're really triggering. And they're designed to trigger us. They're designed to trigger us into having a closer relationship with ourselves, our intuition, the universe, God, nature. Every single trigger that we experience, even though it's uncomfortable, it's designed to guide us back to ourselves. But we haven't been taught emotional intelligence skills in school. We have not been taught how to be in a conflict or we don't even have psychological safety. We are, as a society, are scared of our own thoughts and imagination. And if you think that sounds crazy, that's okay. Go anywhere. I go everywhere as myself. I talk about mermaids, I talk about Bigfoot, I talk about astral travel, I talk about consent, conscious sexuality, like all of these topics, and you will see just how people freak out. I have mentioned mermaids to someone was screaming at me, mermaids aren't real. People get so triggered. And so in that moment, that person who's screaming, mermaids aren't real, they are choosing to be more in alignment with their separation from nature and curiosity and their heart and their imagination. And it's hard to navigate this world and to be on this planet with people who choose separation over and over. And we all do it sometimes because that's how we survive. That person who needed to yell at me that mermaids are not real, their livelihood would have been threatened by the thought that maybe I know what I'm talking about, that maybe I have heard thousands and thousands of hours of Native Caribbean stories surrounding mermaids, that I've done personal thousands of hours worth of astral travel journeys so that I can learn about mermaids because I was curious about it and it piqued my curiosity and my imagination. So we all live in completely different worlds. We have different ways of navigating our own thoughts and our own minds, and we're all on this planet together and trying to figure it out and trying to get along with each other. And human beings, we are wired for connection. This is why religion works the way that it works, because if you can get everyone to believe the same thing and everyone to do the same things all together, all of those people are actually going to be really, really healthy. It's scientifically proven. It's really, really healthy to do that, to live in a community and to be connected in those ways. But for so many of us, like myself, that means abandoning so much of my soul's truth. Because when I talk about astral travel or mermaids or these sorts of things in religious environments, it's called demonic. When I talk about demonic research, which I have done and I can't wait to share more with you in these upcoming episodes, I'm talking about it with people who've just read books about it, who don't astral travel, who haven't spent thousands of hours of their own life talking to God about demons and trying to understand what this is. So I'm really, really happy to be sitting here with you today, because I know that if you're here, you are a strong soul. You've probably been through some stuff too. Maybe you've had your own share of demons and facing darkness and things like that. Maybe you yourself are a professional healer and you have more than enough awareness about interdimensional beings and evil and all of this, and you just want to hang out in a place with people like you. I am so, so grateful that we're here together. I'm so grateful that in this giant world, God has connected us because we followed our intuition. And that's enough data, that's enough information to know that you are connected, you are aligned. There's nothing that you need outside of yourself You just get to see the ways that you are already aligned. What were the intuitive steps that you took that led you here? We'll just have a moment of prayer to just thank ourselves, to thank the mind and all that it does for us, to thank our throat chakra, our desire to communicate our soul, our desire to talk, to try so hard to connect and be misunderstood sometimes, or maybe things come out the wrong way, or not having the words for what we're trying to say, which is something I'm experiencing right now in this moment. Because no matter how much knowledge and education and intelligence you have, we live in this limited universe. Our language is limited, our expression is limited, and we can try so hard to unlimit ourselves with dance and prayer and singing and gratitude. The inner knowing that we are enough. There's nothing that we have to do and nothing that we have to achieve to prove it. We just need to remove everything that is stopping us from being always aware of our own worth and our own enoughness. So thank you, God, for making us into the divine beings that we are and giving us this awareness of ourselves so that we can achieve the desire of God, nature, the universe, our soul purpose, our soul mission, whatever we're meant to create here. Thy will be done. Thank you so, so much for taking this time to spend this godly hour with me talking about these topics that are a little challenging to talk about. I know they're challenging for me. I'm definitely stepping out of a shell here because I've only ever discussed this in private healing sessions, whether I'm facilitating or receiving. And yeah, just really keeping all of this a secret. I feel like I'm just ready to stop living that double life. I'm ready to stop pretending that things are not as dark as they are or holding back in any way. And I had no idea that I was gatekeeping at all until recently. I just wasn't ready to share this stuff. I think that so many of us experience that because of all of the adversity that we face whenever we do, right? Being yelled at by someone that what we're talking about is not real or whatever that is. So thank you for being a spiritually connected person. Thank you for being someone who is connected to your heart, your mind, your everything. Thank you for being you. And I hope that this episode gives you the confidence and the courage to continue shining your light, your authentic, energetic expression in everything that you do and everywhere that you go. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. So bring your nature into your being. And thank you so much for being here.